Howdy. Imagine having to pay immense rent prices or having to choose between living with a close friend or something that is within your budget. The No More Than Four ordinance states that no more than four unrelated individuals can live in a residence together. And if you do live together, you're subject to fines and legal troubles. Texas A&M already has troubles with high cost of housing and limited availability. Personally, it was really hard for me to find a place to live, and me and some buddies finally resorted to living in an apartment complex just because we couldn't find an affordable house. To create a more affordable and supportive housing environment for students in College Station, we must advocate for modifying the No More Than Four ordinance to remove the limit placed on the amount of students living in a house and rather place a limit on the amount of car permits assigned to each house. This would promote affordability and availability, promote community among students, and address neighborhood concerns effectively. Today, I'm going to explain the need for the modification of the No More Than Four rule, a solution, and the benefits of the solution. To help us understand the need for changes to this ordinance, we'll begin by first examining the challenges it represents. The price of rent is too high. According to the Texas Tribune, a news company located in Austin, the average rental price in College Station is $1,500 a month, which is up substantially from the last couple of years. Also, according to Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies, around 57% of renters in Bryan College Station are cost burdened, which means they pay at least 30% of their income on rent and utilities. Both these statistics prove that the price of rent is way too high, and with the enforcing of the No More Than Four ordinance, it makes finding cheap rent harder. Previously, by living with a large group of students, you could decrease the financial burden upon each student, but this is no longer possible. Now that we have addressed the need for a change, I will present a potential solution. Excuse me. Oh, and here you have the graphs for the increase of the average rent in the last couple of years. And on the right, we have a graph of the cost burden. So 57%, like I said, are cost burden, which means that they spend 30% of their income upon housing and utilities, which leaves them little room for other things and causes much financial instability. The main issue that caused the implementation of the No More Than Four rule is complaints from local neighborhoods. These complaints were usually due to street congestion from way too many cars on the street. My solution suggests that the local city council instead of instead of excuse me instead of limiting the number of residents in each house, instead limits the number of parking permits assigned to each house. First off, many students already use alternative methods to get to class, such as mopeds, scooters, bikes, or walking. Texas A&M Graduate School found that many students walk or bike to class. To me, a fair number of permits per house is four, since the ordinance states no more than four unrelated individuals, and we can assume that each individual would have a car. I think it makes sense to keep this same burden, or keep this same ordinance in place with the only allowing four individuals to each house, or four parking permits, not individuals, excuse me. This proposal would allow students to acquire cheaper rent and find housing easier. Now that we have addressed the solution, I would like to discuss the benefits of implementing this new rule. This solution would make housing cheaper and more available while also promoting community in College Station. First off, by allowing more individuals in each house, it will decrease the financial burden. Think about it. If you have an $1,000 rent and that's split between four people, each person would pay $250. But if instead you had people living in those same four bedrooms, you would instead be paying $125 by each person. That would allow for many students to work less, to have more financial freedom and stability, and overall just make their life a little bit easier. According to the Wharton budget model, students who work more than 20 hours a week have lower GPAs compared to students who don't. It would increase the amount of available housing because there would be less of a need for housing. Think about it. If 8 people are living in a house, then rather than using 2 houses, only one would be needed, which would open the market up a lot. According to KAGS, a local news company, one of the main issues is that families are having trouble finding housing just due to competition with students. This could alleviate this issue by, as I said, providing more housing opportunities. Just because there'd be less students in houses and more in concentrated areas. Also, this would allow more students to live near each other, promoting camaraderie and community. I know Aggies already have a strong sense of community, but think about if you had a ton of students living near each other, that would promote a really strong sense of camaraderie and community, and I think would be great for the unity amidst College Station. We discussed the need for change amidst College Station's housing rules, presented a solution, and reviewed the benefits. Today we discussed the need for change amongst College Station's housing rules. And imagine what you could do with the extra income not spent on rent. Imagine the awesome community that you could have found in a densely populated student area. Imagine what new hobbies or who you could hang out with if you had the extra free time from not having to work as long of hours to pay for rent. Also, imagine the improvement in your grades just because you're not working as much. That would be awesome. The local city council needs to address the no more than 4 ordinance because it makes rent more expensive, it makes it harder to find housing, and decreases housing availability. As I said, the best plan of action is to, instead of limiting the number of residents to each house, limit the number of cars assigned to each house, which would therefore address the neighborly concerns of too much street congestion. I urge each person hearing this to protest and advocate to the local city council, and I urge local city council to implement this new housing permission. Together we can make a difference. Thanks and have a great day.